What are you live on Twitch at? Sorry,
Sherae for state.
Sherae for state. You can hear me, right?
I can.
Okay, great.
That's why I answered. Because you asked that question that I
Thank
knew
you.
the answer to, so I answered.
Awesome.
It's pretty great when people have like open dialogue and they can communicate. I'm really a big fan of it.
That's gonna be the whole night.
Whole night.
Okay, I'm gonna start. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are here to get Sherae LaSalle elected for running for state representative in the 43rd LD. That includes Green Lake, Ravenna, Finney Ridge, University District, Wallingford, Portage Bay, Montlake, Madison Park, Capitol Hill, East Lake, South Lake Union, First Hill, Belltown, and downtown. So if you are not registered to vote yet, please go to vote.wa.gov and get registered to vote. We need everyone in those neighborhoods to vote, to get involved, to donate. Thank you so much for being here. Again, those neighborhoods are Green Lake, Ravenna, Finney Ridge, University District, Wallingford, Portage Bay, Montlake, Madison Park, Capitol Hill, East Lake, South Lake Union, First Hill, Belltown, and downtown. And if I've missed any neighborhoods, any of y'all can chime in and let me know. Is that right? Okay, cool. So this is a party. So if you have a drink, a libation, please, join us, have fun. This is a fun, chill discussion. If you don't have a libation, that's okay too. Maybe you have something else that you enjoy. This is a party. This is to have fun. So I just want to preface this with that every time someone says the word community, we are either gonna, yes, you're gonna hear that bell, and you will drink. I have a White Claw because I'm basic bitch. That's what I enjoy. Don't judge me, please. So every time you hear that bell, you're either gonna drink and or donate 5 to 10 or maybe more dollars to the Sherae campaign. Um, yes, and do we have that in the chat for the link? So to donate to the Sherae campaign, you can go to, one second here, Sherae First Aid. Just looking it up on Instagram real quick. Oh, got it. Thank you. It's in the chat. It's tinyurl.com/donate for Sherae. Easy peasy. So each time you hear that bell, someone says the word community, please donate. Yep, that bell right there. Please donate to Sherae at tinyurl.com/donate Sherae. Sherae. And if you can't find it, go to Sherae's Instagram, Sherae for State. All the info and link is in their bio. So first of all, I'm Olivia. My name is Olivia Lenz. I am with Seattle DSA. That is the Democratic Socialist of America. I am a co-chair of the AfroSoc Caucus. That is the Afro Socialist and Socialist of Color Caucus of DSA. So what we're all about is getting people elected that care about the people. A socialist is someone who cares about people over profit instead of profit over people. Capitalism, as a lot of us know, cares about profit over people. And that's why DSA and AfroSoc is so excited about Sherae, and we just moved the motion to endorse them. Um, and we are working our asses off to try to get them elected. You can join us most Saturdays and Sundays. We're canvassing in those areas that I mentioned earlier, Green Lake, Wallingford, etc., to get Sherae elected. Just visit Sherae's Instagram website and DSA, Seattle DSA, to get that information to help us canvass, because the election is coming up soon. So we need to get on that. Okay, so the reason I personally am so excited about Sherae is because I I'm just so excited to finally have a person that I can freaking vote for that is not a white cis male that pretends like they're progressive, that they're gonna help with rent control, but then they never do, like Frank Chop. Frank Chop has been in that position that Sherae is challenging him to for like 20 plus years now. We need to get him out. He pretends he's progressive. He says he's going to do all these things about rent control, about helping community, and never does. He's a landlord. He owns a lot of property. Um, he's a white cis male. He is upholding, capitalism. So we want to get him out. We want Sherae in. Sherae is from the community and wants to work with community. And that is why I'm so excited about Sherae. Another reason is because Sherae does not, look like a lot of people who are upholding office right now. They are not a cisgender white male. They are of community. They understand what it's like to live under capitalism, to live under oppression, and to not be in a position of upholding it. And so we definitely need someone who represents us, and Sherae is definitely that person. So moving on here, let's introduce our co-host. Let's go ahead and start
I have to
with.
interrupt you.
Mhm.
You said the C word. So
Oh, community. Go ahead and drink, y'all.
And I think that was said like at least 5 times. So that's like $50 in donations for everybody. So let's drop those donation links and get that money flowing for community.
So I said community like 5 times. So drink 5 times, donate 5, 10, 15, 20. I'm not good at math. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe $25 to $50 to Sherae right now. Yes. Okay. Yeah, we got to keep track on that community name. Oh, I said it again. Oh my gosh, what have I done?
okay, your mic is cut off now, Olivia. Someone else needs to speak because
Okay.
we'll
Go
never
ahead
get to
and
anyone else, and then we'll all have to go to the hospital for alcohol poisoning at this rate, and have empty bank accounts. Either way, that's not good for anyone. This is a mutual aid campaign first and foremost.
I love that. Okay, so Carrie Moon, do you want to introduce yourself first, and then call on other people to introduce themselves? Go ahead,
Sure.
Carrie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Moon. I am the biggest fan in the world of Sherae for their brilliance and commitment to building a better world for everybody. So I'm super psyched to be here. Day, why don't you go next and then you tag the next person?
Hey, I'm Day. Super honored and excited to be here too. worked with Sherae specifically more the past several months during a lot of the uprising and the movements, which I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more during this conversation. But I will pass it on for now to KL.
Hi, everyone. My name is KL Shannon. Um, I'm really excited to be here this evening to support Sherae. Um, I find Sherae to be someone that is bold and courageous in her efforts, and it's really important to me to, to support young people, especially uh, young Black women that are pursuing, that are pursuing political office. So um, that's why I'm here to. Uh, that's why I'm here tonight to do that. So thank you for this opportunity. Um, should I pass it on?
Yes.
Robert, I'll pass it on to Robert.
Thank you, KL. It's a pleasure to be here with you and with everybody else. Um, and I'm inspired by Sherae in so many ways. I do a lot of different activism work. One of the things I do is lead the organization Washington's Paramount Duty to try to help fully fund our public schools. And I've sat in Frank Chop's office, um, you know, white cis guy like me, and promising the world to everybody, and he has no intention of ever following through. And I think that's partly because of who he is and who we are. As white cis guys, we have enough power as it is. It's time to shake that up and break that up. And I'm inspired by Sherae for their leadership, their ability to step up, to organize, to provide bold leadership. I'd be excited by Sherae no matter when they ran, no matter where they ran. But in this moment of crisis, in so many ways, running at someone who's been there for 20 years and has done nothing to fight for the community, I said that word. The contrast is
Drink or donate
drink.
$5 to $10.
It's huge. It's a huge contrast. And I'm so excited to be here with everybody else tonight because Sherae is running a campaign that's not just a campaign, it's a movement in building power for folks who have been oppressed by folks like me. And I'm tired of that. It's time for change. And I'm just excited to see them step up and do whatever I can to help. So happy to be here and happy to be here with everybody else. And let's see, who else do I need to pass it off to?
I think we were only going to introduce the hosts, but I think I want to welcome everybody else too. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to get to a point where people can ask questions via the chat. So don't be shy about doing that. But I think we can move right into our, we're going to do kind of a wonky part around issues and have this shared dialogue around issues and solutions. And we each have an issue that we're going to talk through for like maybe 5 or so minutes each. And Robert volunteered to go first. So Robert's going to tee up the first issue for us to talk about with Sherae and everybody who wants to weigh in.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. And, I think I alluded to it earlier, but, if you know kids, parents, teachers, this is a moment of, it's really tough for everybody. It's tough for us in so many ways around the city, around the state with a pandemic. But education has become even tougher. And, education's on the ballot this fall in so many ways. Referendum 90 about age-appropriate sex education. Education is on the ballot in terms of who's going to lead the school system. Education is on the ballot in terms of who's going to fight for kids. And yet it goes so much deeper than that, as I think everyone here knows. We had crisis in schools long before that. We had racial injustice. We had a system rooted and still is rooted in white supremacy that is only just beginning to be challenged. We have institutional oppression in schools. And so this is a moment of crisis for sure. The crisis is not just in this moment, however. It's been around for a long time. But it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity to think about, where do we want to go from here? When we reopen, when we rebuild, what does that look like? How do we take this moment and pivot to building schools and education systems that aren't oppressive, that are empowering. And I'm curious to hear from Sherae and others, what does it look like now? We have this moment. I feel like we can look at this as a crisis, or we can look at it as a moment of change, a moment where we can step up and be bold. I really just want to kick it first to Sherae. What can we do as a community, as organizers at this moment to really,
Drink or donate.
I wasn't going to get through without saying that at least once.
$5,000.
I wasn't going to say without that word. What can we do? Like, I feel like I'm so inspired by Sherae to step up and lead, like they've been doing for so long. And the contrast with Chop, who's just been nowhere to be found on these issues for so long. I also want to kick it to Sherae. And what is it that we do? Where do we go starting first with building great schools so we build a great society around that?
Yes. Okay. I will be really, really honest. It was individual teachers, obviously, and the will and persistence of my family that made it possible for me to even have an accessible education. Not anything to do with the state funding, honestly. It was people that went out of their way. Like starting 4th grade, I had my first teacher who was a woman of color. And in 3rd grade, I went up to her at field day at the end of the year and said, I will do anything to be in your class next year, and I will not come to school if they don't put me in your class. So I'd never seen a Black teacher before. And I'm from Eastern Washington. It was in District 81, Spokane. That might have been one of my biggest protests as an adolescent, was being emphatic that I would not go to school at all if I was not in Mrs. January's class, because I wanted to be near her. I didn't really know anyone like her. I'd never seen her or never seen anyone like her in an academic setting either. So I know how failed it can feel to not have anyone like you in school and not understand why. And it all comes really down to how well we fund schools, how well we connect communities of color to being able to participate in the public school system from the perspective of someone that's an educator. I know that we made a lot of really bad cuts the last time we were in the same financial and economic situation that we're in now. And we still haven't repaired the financial damage and repaired the budgets of our public school system throughout Washington that we cut in 2008 through 2010. And we act as if it's gotten so much better, and we act as if all these new, new monies or reappropriations of funds are huge wins for the public school system, when honestly, they still haven't even measured back up to what we cut from them in 2008 through 2010. So anyone that's been in the House during that time and says, well, look at all these things that we did for public schools. It's like, well, what about all the things you took away that made it necessary for you to be doing this in the first place? We've never actually fully funded public education and made it fully accessible to every community. There's the word again. In the state, we just act like we have because it's good enough, and we give people half measures every single session to say that we tried. Last year, I worked on advocating for the sex ed bill with Planned Parenthood. I did a tour of like Puget Sound on their policy roundtables from the perspective of someone who went to a school where the majority of my class was pretty much out in the hall or in a different class during all of our sex ed lessons, and that burden that was on the people that were in those classes as peers to teach their peer that didn't get the education. And also what it did to my social circles and to the economic well-being of my peers in school that had to traverse the hurdles and barriers of not having been educated on their bodies, not having been educated on what abuse looks like, not having been educated on what their options are if something goes wrong in their lives that they didn't plan for when it comes to unexpected pregnancies or abuse that turned into unexpected pregnancies. I am one of millions of students that have gone without comprehensive sex ed in the state, that have looked around and thought, wow, I dodged a bullet It's not because I'm any better than anyone else. It's because I got lucky that there was someone at home that had an education in how to talk about our bodies and our boundaries to be able to impart that upon me. But not everyone has that support system at home. We shouldn't all be doomed to finding out the hard way that there are limitations um, to how much support we have. Like it should be baked into school. We should be really honest about what you can and cannot do. We should be really honest about what resources are available to you. It's a rude awakening, especially right out of high school, to realize there's nothing. There's no support. Um, but we should be starting a lot earlier with the education on how to set your own boundaries, how to recognize abuse, how to understand that saying no is okay, and what options you have if things don't always go the way you planned. And it always starts with funding. So, like every conversation we're probably going to have tonight, it's always going to come back to taxation and being able to fully fund these things. I cannot believe that there are representatives to this day that claim to be extremely progressive. And when you come to them with an idea for public education for our youth, they say, well, how are you going to pay for it? Um, that should be completely banned from the vocabulary of a legislator in this state, especially
not being like funneled into any of these good things. Like the money is just sitting there, and we need courageous leaders like Sherae who understand that and are not afraid of Microsoft and Amazon and Boeing and the billionaires. Like someone needs to stand up to them, and who better than Sherae and Kirsten Harris Talley and a bunch of other progressive leaders who are ready to do that. So I'm excited about what's coming on that front. We're not taking no this time.
I really want to put some perspective and context onto the afraid part, and what's the difference and why. It's not that I'm not afraid. I'm absolutely terrified. What makes it, possible for me to do what I do and say what I say is that I'm impacted just as much as a good third of the population right now, and we're at the bottom. Obviously, just a couple of pieces of papers away from being homeless again, like legitimately. So when you talk about the fear of other people that are in a position to run for office and are traditionally able to run for office, they have something to lose, or they already have ties to the corporate side of community, and they're dependent on maybe those relationships to survive and to, protect their wealth or their income or their property. And I don't have any of those things. So I can't lose them. The only thing I can really lose at this point is the roof over my head. That puts it into perspective of like, it's not that I'm not afraid, it's just that I'm more afraid of the consequences if we don't do anything, because I have been on the edge my whole life.
That is so powerful. Thank you. So how about we shift to a new topic with Day? What do you have? What are you thinking about? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, Sheree. I think about the term representative, and I think about, as Robert mentioned in the introduction, folks like Frank Chop and the typical people that, I'm from Hawaii, right? And it's, in terms of diversity, there's a lot of different types of identities that and backgrounds and lived experiences in a place that's so recently colonized, like the 808. And even with that, most of the representatives in politics in Hawaii were cis white men, and you could really see just who held the power. And that not necessarily, we always hear this stat all the time that like the country's getting more diverse, we're going to get more than 50%. It's the majority minority or minority majority. I always mix them up, but you know what I'm talking about. And like I'm excited for that, but that doesn't mean power is necessarily going to shift automatically. And these are the types of steps that's required. And yeah, it's one of those things where like for me, a couple of the things that I'm really passionate about in my advocacy work is homelessness, houselessness, and just a lot of the advocacy around the treatment of encampments here in our city. And people often ask me why, like, why do you care about that topic so much? Like, what interests you that over other things? And it's like, well, I mean, it comes down to my own lived experience growing up in Section 8 housing and knowing that just the one missed paycheck or one accident or one bill away from being in a very similar situation and not knowing what the alternative solutions could be with the way that our system is set up by people who are supposed to be representing us without that type of lived experience. And when Sherae, you share your story, it's like that's exactly who we need in 2020 representing our people is people with that type of lived experience. And I think too often we are told that those type of lived experiences is some type of almost like a disqualification to be able to run for office, which is so ridiculous. It's like, well, of course we have a homelessness crisis since 2015, and of course it's only getting worse because the people in positions of power have never experienced anything close to that. Whether it's being trust fund babies or whether it's like the fake middle class that, um, like moderate Democrats like Joe Biden put out there. I'm voting for Joe Biden. I'm not getting into that, but that's not my point. But you know what I mean. And it's like when I don't I'm somebody who believes electoral politics is one means to an end to obtain this type of material change our community needs. And so I say that because I think too often we put all of our eggs in this electoral politics basket. And I only right now get excited for candidates who really embody that type of material change that our community needs. And Sherae is obviously is that person. Um, I I tuned into
Or
oh
donate.
yeah community. I tuned into the debate or the Zoom conversation, or I don't know what they labeled it as, Sherae versus Frank Chop, and like Sherae, you've talked about this a couple of times already on different platforms, but when you had to pause and provide services and materials, I think it was a TARP for somebody else, and letting them know like, yeah, I know this is traditional politics and we have to do this and this is like what normally has to be done, but like my community needs me right now. And we're in a very Zoom work at home era, and everybody's at home. And I'm not saying elected officials have more time necessarily, but when the uprising, the revolution has been happening over the past couple of months, and communities that's been neglected has been calling out to these elected officials. You know, I either didn't see them on the ground there, or I saw them for maybe 30 minutes for a photo op. You know what I mean? And Sherae was there day in and day out providing mutual aid. Sherae is going to pause a debate that could cost her some votes to be like, I have to prioritize the people that I'm choosing to represent. And unlike other candidates and politicians, these aren't empty promises of what they will do when they get into office. This is stuff that Sherae has been doing for their community for years and years since being in Seattle. And that's like that body of work, that proof of work has been established. And that's why there is no doubt in my mind the things that Sherae will be able to do, um, because that's what Sherae has been doing. And I think too often politicians, especially in 2020, have gotten pretty fluent in social justice language. It's really easy to name these platitudes on what they're going to do, what they're going to promise, and too often we're disappointed because whether it's when we follow the money or whether it's um, the promises that they have actually made in backroom conversations, those things have to be prioritized over these platitudes that they say out because they know that it's a sexy thing to say. um, this is the work that Sheree's been doing already. And so, of course, that work is going to continue when Sheree's elected into that seat. Um, and just a quick thing too. It's so funny that like a lot of these like electability conversations, it's still a thing with somebody like Sherae when that embodiment of work has been established for a very long time. And I think for me, when I worked in 2017 on Nikita Oliver's campaign, it was the same type of conversations, electability. This is just a message campaign. This is just like this and that. And this is Sheree's campaign is a strong message campaign, but it's so far from just a message campaign. This is a campaign that I really do feel like it can win. Um, and I think Frank Chop is worried, if I'm being honest. I think Frank knows that he can try to do like a verbiage battle with Sheree back and forth on like who's more woke, but it's just clear that this is just very new concepts when he talks about like, oh yeah, I can defund the police or whatever this and that. Like it's you don't believe him because that's not been part of his resume, and so I'm excited to support Sheree. I I respect anyone who pushes back on the status quo on what electability looks like. Um, I'm glad you didn't choose to dye your hair a traditional color, even though you got that
It
type
was
of
a really,
pressure.
really hard one, and
Oh,
not because
I'm
I
sure.
no, not because I was gonna bend,
Sure. Yeah.
but because it was one of the first questions out of like a couple dozen people's mouths. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
wow, I can't believe that's the first thing you think of
Yeah.
to fix myself to be worthy.
Yeah. Well, now you got
I'm
really
no
cool.
longer talking to you about this.
Now you got cool flyers, though. You know what I mean? It's like now look what happened.
I'll tell you a secret. They
I have a
already
quick
looked like
question.
that before I went forward. Honestly, I already had my brand.
Yeah. Now it's just you can't change it a different color. Now that color is iconic, you know?
It's already been 10 years, so I don't feel like changing anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I have a question for you actually though. I just think so many young people are inspired by your campaign and like that pressure to kind of what word am I looking for? That pressure to
Conform.
change, yeah, like yeah, exactly, change themselves and their identity to kind of fit into the social norm, and to empower young people to continue to be themselves and fight for what they believe in and be an advocate. um, what are other things that you had to, I think the hair maybe was a little bit less difficult, but were there other things, whether it's like deciding to attend this meeting or go to this action, or like what are things you had to weigh in your mind knowing that if you don't do a certain thing it may really hurt your campaign? Because let's face it, you're still, it's we there's always going to be a level of compromise we have to weigh when we're running for a seat in our system, right? And so I'm curious, like what type of other obstacles you had to kind of weigh back and forth, and how did you reach those decisions?
Okay, you're the first person to ask me that on a public forum.
Oh,
Um,
great.
no, it is great. But I talk about it a lot, and I rant about it a lot with my team, actually, in this very room, and sometimes in my backyard if it's not raining. Um, Picking and choosing which questionnaires I was going to put, 4 to 20 hours into.
All those
Uh,
questionnaires.
and then like people have gotten, really worried for me because of how I decided. But the essentially part of the rubric, or like the way I decide if I'm going to put untold amount of hours, unpredictable amount of hours into a questionnaire
Yeah.
is if their mission statement and their body of work has already 100% aligned with my values, and more specifically, if I am more progressive or left of them, and I don't disagree with what they've done so far and what they want to do in the future. I made a commitment to myself to not bend to the pressures of the potential reach of endorsement, um, or compromise my values, or things they've done in the past, turn a blind eye to them, essentially. So
So you stuck to principles with all of that, and you still have these dope endorsements.
Well,
Because it's not like you don't have endorsements. You have very powerful endorsements.
I do. But I also kind of already knew where everyone was sat on the spectrum
Sure.
of progress in this city because just because I'm new to you, this is one of my taglines. I ain't new.
Mhm.
Um, I've worked on other campaigns. I've been a campaign manager last year in the heaviest city council cycle there was to date, and I also have been a consultant uh, on other campaigns prior to people knowing my legal name after the D4 interim vacancy. So I already kind of had a feel for which organizations did what. I already had a feel for as a voter and community organizer before all of being public in the Seattle. Yeah, you're right. Before being public, and I already had a deal with an idea of where all the moving parts were in organizing, and which organizations had which power and where they went and how they showed up. So I already kind of had a roadmap to what I was comfortable with and what my goals were for the year before I even launched my campaign.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
But
and
it's hard to have to say that though because people are like, why didn't you go for this one? And I was like, well, did you see that one thing that no one else seems to care about and how really painful it is to someone like me, but
yeah,
apparently no one else seems to care because of all this other work they do.
yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Well, I'll just close by saying I really appreciate you and your campaign. I think y'all did an amazing job, and it's been really inspiring. And that we have a couple weeks left, and it's GOTV time, and pushing you to the finish line. I want to emphasize that this is easily more than just a message campaign, and if we do everything we can possibly do for you, there's a real shot to celebrating a campaign that's already worth celebrating in so many ways. So I appreciate you and your team, and honored to share some of my experiences organizing with you.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, so beautiful day. I totally agree. I was super down after Bernie was completely out. And then once I learned about Sherae, like I got a reboost of like energy and inspiration from their campaign. And it gave me hope. A lot of people don't realize that this election is important because it's, drowned out by the Trump and Biden drama and they're not inspired by it. And but I feel like if they really dug into Sherae and their platform, they would give them a reboost of inspiration. And I just want to reiterate the rules that if you say community, that you have to drink. I just said it. You have to drink or donate. And Day and Sherae just said it like, I don't know, maybe 10 plus times just in these last few minutes. And that link to donate is tiny, TANY, URL.com/donate Sherae, SHERAE. So please donate. It helps so much. And I think you were going to speak, Carrie. Go ahead.
I think, yeah, KL is next up to bring an issue and a topic that she wants our group to talk about, especially Sherae. And then after KL, May has a question and Deepa has a great question in the chat. So that's what we'll move to after KL. KL, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Um, Again, I just want to acknowledge Sherae and just the work that uh, they're doing. Um, I'm very inspired, um, and again, I appreciate their boldness and their courage, and you know, um, their platform You know, housing is a real passion for me. Um, they talked about being raised in on Section 8, and I was as well. In the Central District, and it's always, it's always a concern for me, especially when um, I was working with a friend of mine who was running for a seat in West Seattle, maybe a year or 2 years ago. And one of the things that we did is that we went to go visit a tent city called Second Chance, and there were a number of black women that were in this campsite, that were in my age category, and many of them, you know, had lost their jobs, you know, had come to Seattle, to find work, and they couldn't find work, and so many of them were homeless, and it was just frightening to know that there were so many women that looked like me that were homeless, and so this is part of why the issue around housing is so uh, close to me, because I know right now there are families that are without housing, that are living in their cars, and don't have any kind of resources, and just there needs there is an immediate need for housing in this country. And so you have someone like Frank Chop that has been in office for 20 years, and he brags about what he's done um, within housing, but again, you know what he's done has not trickled down to us. It has not trickled down to us at all. And so so it's really important. It's time for someone to 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 be in that seat that's going to represent the BIPOC community. That's going to be bold. That's going to challenge. That's not going to be cautious. There's not going to be cautious about, oh well, if I do this, I can't make waves over here. So and that is who Sherae is, and so um, um, we could talk more and more about housing, but also the issue around immigration. That is important to me. It is just disheartening to know that many of our children are in cages and separated from their families, and is and how and what is going on in this country around immigration is just so disheartening and inhumane. And so, again, Chop has talked about, what he's done, what he will do, and we need someone in there that's bold, that's that's not going to be cautious as they move. We need someone in there that's going to be there for the community, that's going to be there for the BIPOC community, and so yeah, I would like just to hear Sherae's thoughts about immigration, maybe a little bit more on housing. you know that's my thoughts.
You said, so many things that am so excited to hear from you about myself. I don't know, I'm blown away. Thank you. Um, but you said the word cautious, or not be cautious, essentially, that they're too cautious. And I think the word cautious is the wrong word For me, because it has a different connotation for me,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm extremely cautious.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I care about more than how I look or what I have or my own position in this world um, are people that I'm interchangeable with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cautious as in I move to protect people like me first and foremost, and people who have more than I do. Their feelings and their position are not, unfortunately, they're not where my labor goes. Like keeping them where they're at is not where my labor goes. It's not even where my brain space goes. Um, I don't show up in the world to make folks that already have power comfortable. I was not born to make people comfortable. It's not my purpose. Um, Unfortunately, my purpose has become fighting to survive myself and then realizing that I'm not alone and that so many other folks have similar experiences to me. And unfortunately, having the understanding that unless we are able to build collective power, we won't even change this for our next generation. So I'm extremely cautious. I don't necessarily want to die. I don't want anyone else that's like me to die because this is how we were born, or that we're built, we're building a structure above us that wasn't made for us. So housing first and housing being a human right is, all the rage these days to say, but how many people that say it and have an audience understand what it's like to not have housing and try to function?
Yes.
I would really like to know. I have an assumption. The assumption is probably less than 1%.
Yeah.
That's a problem. They've taken the words where we have said, this is what we need, because people ask us, what do we need? They study us, they exploit us, they tokenize our experiences as a means to an end, and they will say the words, they will parrot them through every hall, on every blog post, and every frickin' tweet. But have they ever experienced what it's like to actually live outside? And if you ever reference someone that's doing a demonstration or direct action where they pretend to be homeless and they have a freaking tent from REI, we're going to have some words. I'll even do it privately, but we're going to have some words. That's not the same. To literally have nowhere to go and literally have too many barriers to get into the shelters that are available.
Mm-hmm.
Housing is housing first, and housing is human right are kind of first and foremost when it comes to any behavioral health initiative anyone has, any healthcare initiative anyone has, any interest in helping people access stable work or address any drug use that they're involved in, whether that be considered by them an addiction or not. Drug users are valid in every way. But you want to talk about like how we fix all of our giant crises that are overlapping right now, and if people don't have a minute to think because they don't have a safe place to sleep, how do we expect anyone to change their circumstances or advocate for themselves? You just can't. And I know what it has been like to just literally not have a way to think because you didn't have anywhere to sleep. So first and foremost, and yeah, it's really alarming when we see so many people that look like us in situations that are just a couple of moments going a different way, we could be there too.
Thank you, Sherae.
I was muted.
Wow.
Sorry. We have a question from May, and then one from Deepa. And we have 4 minutes left on the on the clock. So let's try to go a few minutes over, but not too far. So May.
Yes. Um, what KL and Sherae just shared reminded me of an experience I had when I first moved to Seattle. I wasn't accustomed to the damp and cold weather. So one day I wore literally every warm clothes I had in my closet. I'm sorry about my dogs. And I was completely bundled up and crossing Roosevelt and Ravenna in my neighborhood like I normally do. I experienced kind of like a bizarre reaction from a motorist. And I realized only afterwards, in the pouring rain, without an umbrella, and all bundled up, really big poofy jackets, I was treated as if I was a homeless person. And that really outraged and moved me because I cross the street like I always do. There is no difference in my behavior like I did every day. Anyways, my reason for wanting to speak really briefly is I haven't. I profess my ignorance. My only connection to this forum is because I had a fortune to go to a baby shower 15 years ago with Carrie Moon, and that's it. Other than that, I've done nothing. So I'm just trying to stretch myself to follow the the higher level deep thoughts that you guys have. And I'm wondering if you could shed light on sort of the solution space you see. Um, I'm from Asia, 35 years ago. I'm aware of the extreme wealth disparity there. However, government housing is not a new concept to me. You know, housing as a human right is not new to me. I'm also somewhat familiar with the education system in the UK and Europe, where you don't have to put in, your paycheck money to save for your children's, college education. So I'm just trying to understand what you see as the solution. Yeah.
There's a good 100 programs for the public that are currently run primarily by the nonprofit industrial complex that would only take a couple of tweaks to our current governance model to make public, to make social. And it would do a lot and come a long way to start to even the playing field for how people come out in life and how they start in life. First and foremost, it's having, public education fully funded. And that doesn't mean like, we all have access to public education. It means like, I don't know, not having 50 students per teacher in some cases. Having different class types for different aptitudes and having people that are multilingual to teach, different communities that might not have English as their first language directly from their communities. It just really means having more. Yeah, I said it like 3 times, I'm sorry. Just having more money put into how we run the public systems we have currently, but it also means having money put aside for childcare, for transportation, for public housing, using some of the lands that are owned by our state or county or city to create more shelter for more people. It also means, changing ban on rent control so that our booming metropolitan city that we have right here that's doing great economically for some people, but also pushing people out, can continue to grow in a way that doesn't displace people so that we can build more and more support and, continue the virtuous cycles of access to services in the same places. So you're not unfamiliar with it, but we kind of vilify people who want some of the same things that other nations have. The interesting thing is that our state actually does have the power to test out some of these things in a microcosm, and we just have chosen not to, and we wave our state constitution around as an excuse to not act when we could also amend our constitution. So it's really just a matter of political will and courage that has prevented us from adopting these systems of, socially accessible and socially funded and accessible to all community members, education and healthcare and public housing. I really appreciate you asking that question as someone who does not has seen it happen and seen it work, and are here now asking, well, why don't we just do that? Great question. I'm here asking the exact same question. Thank you, May.
Thank you. I just want to make one comment. In this pandemic, I keep in touch with some of my friends in Asia. Oh my God, you have no idea how good things are over there. What the are we doing here? It's incredible. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, that was fantastic. We have one more beautiful question from Deepa. I want to remind everybody, as everybody has said so far, that campaigns don't run on air and love. They mostly run on love, but they also run on money, because these amazing staff people that are employed on Sherae's campaign deserve to get paid a living wage. So dig deep, donate. I think the limit is $1,000 per candidate. And I mean, sorry, $1,000 for this cycle of the election. So dig as deep as you can, because this campaign needs the fuel to win. So Deepa, why don't you bring it home?
Okay. Hi, Sherae. Hi, everybody. I've seen you speak. I've seen you fight, Sherae, in multiple venues, and you're such an inspiration. And you've overcome a lot, and you're living on the edge right now. You talked about, like, living on the edge, what it's like to live on the edge. And you're running this campaign, you're fighting for so many people. And I'm curious what your thoughts are about how we get more folks who are living on the edge, who know what this experience is, what it's like to experience houselessness, what it's like to live with student debt or not be able to access education. How do we change our political process so that it's easier for folks on the edge to come in and participate? Do you have thoughts? I'm curious what your thoughts are about campaign finance.
I have so many thoughts as someone who is the treasurer for my campaign. Yep. I remember last year, just with the city council races, being a campaign manager and wanting to just live in Polly Grove's office because of ethics rules, and being like, I just want to ask why. Let's talk about this, like the philosophy behind all of these rules. And then now with the PDC, really understanding that it's literally set up so that if you are a community member that doesn't come from significant wealth to start your campaign off, right, or doesn't feel comfortable, I don't know, kind of padding your coffers before you launch your campaign with essentially what's the equivalent to a backroom deal in my eyes. Someone please, if you have a different take on it, please let me know. But having the question asked of, like, do you have people that are backing you before I launch, was freaking me out. I was like, what are you talking about? No. What? That's a thing? Oh, okay. You can start on your first day with $20,000? Huh. I didn't know that. So best case scenario would be publicly funded elections and having it be limited to public funding based on the taxation we're doing right now with democracy vouchers in the municipal races for City of Seattle, having that be state and then, national. But I am not a pie in the sky dreamer that thinks that we can just jump to my ideal. So first things first is keeping corporate money out of campaigns. Second would be changing the parameters of the timeline of being able to collect campaign contributions or talk about your campaign. But I think first and foremost, being able to overturn a lot of decisions when it comes to, you know, super PACs and corporate money being treated the same as, you know, individual citizen money, and that's an issue for me. But you know, best case scenario, utopia, publicly funded elections through and through for the entire nation. To reduce harm right now, we need to be overturning Citizens United at the federal level. And then even if we don't do that at the federal level, we've made a lot of progress in Washington with how we can have political speech happen, with, you know, banning our Facebook ads, purchase Facebook ads, things like that. But I think we can go even further and just say, like, quite literally, you can't accept money from businesses. You can't accept money from organizations that are in PACs that have this interest against, you know, the charters of our state when it comes to our, you know, commitment to the environment. So maybe just oil money is not even allowed in our state. Why don't we try that? We could probably do that. There's a lot of things that we could do in the meantime while we fight for Citizens United to be overturned, to make it a little bit fairer. But PDC itself is a larger organization, a larger oversight board, and it's not something we have 100% control over in the state. So we would have to tweak that as well. Also,
Thank
it's
you.
terrible, by the way, to run for office with no money.
Yeah, well, and then you have to seek out all these endorsements, and to watch you maintain your authenticity in the face of, like, I mean, yeah, just like, I mean, all you have are maybe endorsers backing you, and you're still always you, right? And that has been so incredible to watch. It's been so incredible to watch.
So you've seen my work. I really don't.
I'm part of Seattle DSA. I was there during the call. Yeah, hi. Yeah. So that was, I mean, the way that you just sort of stood your ground, and yeah, you're like, this is me. Like, I mean, I don't, yeah, that was just amazing. It was amazing.
Well, I am fighting for the things I'm fighting for because I'm in the same situation as the majority of the people that are hurting right now. That's not a euphemism that I'm saying to gain more votes and, like, level myself with individuals that are working class folks. I quite literally, if I hadn't have worked so hard with a bunch of other folks to extend the eviction moratorium, would be homeless again right now. So when I say I have nothing to lose, I don't. It's only a matter of time, I think, before the hammer drops down. And if we don't have a representative in the 43rd, 10,000+ people are going to get evicted.
Yeah.
And I'd be one of them.
Oh, man.
Thank you for those questions, May and Deepa. And thank you for Sherae for your truth. We appreciate that so much. Before I bring Carrie in to finish everything, I just want to again reiterate about, you know, contributing to the campaign financially. Again, the website is tiny.url/donate Sherae, SHERAE. And also, if you want to canvas with us, we're canvassing tomorrow at University Playground and Sunday at Cohen Park at 11 a.m. Canvassing to get Sherae elected. Yeah, go ahead, Carrie, to close us out.
Hey, Carrie, do you mind if I pop in with a update? So far, we have raised $600 tonight. I would love to see that be $1,000. And if we were all catching up for how many times community was said, with what I just said again, we would definitely be there. I encourage you to really think about how important this campaign is. I say it all the time, but this campaign is literally history in the making. Sherae is the greatest competitor CHOP has ever had, and they are queer, non-binary, Black abolitionist running against the moderate Democrat who has taken more cop money than anybody in any rep in the state of Washington, who's literally a gentrifier and owns $2 million worth of property in the CD that he doesn't even live on. This campaign is so important to so many different communities because of Sherae's intersecting identities. And take a drink, donate, and really inventory your privilege when you take a donation, when you donate, and assess if you can cover the cost of a donation that somebody else may not be able to, because times are really tough and a lot of communities aren't able to. And if you're able to cover the cost that somebody else would donate, please do that. And if you're not able to donate, you can text your friends. If you have friends in tech, right, hit them up. And you can tweet, you can post on Facebook, Instagram, and you can come out and canvas with us this weekend. Yeah. But please donate. This is a people-powered campaign. It's our donations all come in from community. Sorry, you'll have to donate again. And it's just really important. So get out your wallets and consider covering the cost of somebody who may not be able to donate.
I want to thank Sherae for being one of the most brilliant and inspiring people I have met in my entire life. And I'm not exaggerating. Every moment I spend in a format like this, you don't expect a fundraiser to be so profound, so moving, and so inspiring. But it is, because that's what Sherae is about. So I really want to thank Sherae mostly for doing this and for being such an amazing organizer and leader and visionary person. Your idea of what our society can be is just so powerful and compelling and beautiful. So thank you, Sherae. Thank you, everybody who's working on the campaign, and your commitment to getting Sherae into power is amazing. And thank you for everybody who came out tonight. I think we all learned a lot. We all deepened our commitment to Sherae. And let's go use that in talking to other people and putting this out on social media and making sure everybody you know in the 43rd is planning to vote for Sherae and in donating. Like, whatever you have to give, this is the time to give, because the campaign ends. The voting is in 3 weeks, and we have got to make sure we get to 51%. Excuse me. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night. I'm so glad everybody could come.
Can we just quickly remind when the next canvas is? I forgot.
Okay, the next canvas to Canvas for Sherae is tomorrow, Saturday, at University Playground, 11 a.m., and Sunday, Cowen Park, Cowen Park, at 11 a.m. as well. So please show up. We need so many people to get out the word. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. This was so much fun.
All our heroes, mostly because, like, I said a bunch of stuff, and now I don't know how many shots in, and I'm so stoked that I could still speak, considering how many times they said the C word. But also that we have a lot of similar goals, and there's no reason we shouldn't be doing this together one way or the other, no matter what the next 3 weeks bring. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful.
And if you donate for Sherae, maybe Day could show his cute cat again. And donate for the cat. If Sherae,
I was just trying to up the engagement of the donations, you know?
Donate for the cat.
People pay for cats. All right. He ran away, so next time.
Okay.
Is it a kitten or a cat?
It's a whole cat. But also,